restricting abortion actually began with doctors in the early days of the country. Abortion, the process was determined by quickening. What is quickening? Quickening meant the moment the pregnant person could feel the fetus move, which typically happened between the 4th and the 6th month of pregnancy. At that time, it was the only way to truly confirm the pregnancy. So the thought of life beginning at the conception was not at all a factor. Ending the pregnancy after the quickening period was considered illegal. It was hard to prosecute because it was only the pregnant person who could attest whether or not the fetus had moved. Abortions were accessible and largely without stigma at this time. Close to 1800s, doctors at that time were mostly unorganized profession. They thought to separate themselves from the healers and midwives who were also performing abortions. Doctors, in order to gain the authority as they do today, they pushed the states to pass anti-abortion law in order to tamp down on the competition. These physicians were backed by the newly founded American Medical Association. They argued that they had more knowledge on the embryos and that heightened the medical knowledge was necessary to determine whether life began. This claim did not actually exist in the medical community. They wanted to take away the women's bodily autonomy, such that doctors could interpret the medical condition rather than just relying on whether the pregnant individual could feel the fetus move. By the early 1900s, every state had made adoption illegal, though there were exceptions made if the life of the pregnant person was at risk. But until 1973, Roe v. Wade seeking abortions became extremely dangerous, particularly for low-income pregnant people and the people of color, especially black women. In 1930s, abortion was listed as the official cause of death for almost 2,700 women in the United States. And in 1940s, when antibiotics were introduced, fewer were dying from illegal abortions, but thousands were still admitted into the hospital due to the medical complication. By the early 1970s, anti-abortion movement started, and Holland said, United States is on a slippery slope towards the genocide and fascism. However, by the mid of 1970s, Republican Party joined the anti-abortion movement and brought in Roe v. Wade. Currently, Supreme Court says that anti-abortion movement has effectively achieved till date. But if Roe v. Wade is overturned, it will have a major impact on the state and the individuals. To list a few, states that continue to allow abortion could see an influx of patients seeking care. Earlier, Texas declared a 6-week ban on abortion last year. Some residents began to get abortions out of the state. In the final 4 months of the last year, parent-planned clinics in the states near Texas reported nearly 800 increase in abortion patients from Texas compared to the same period in the prior year. According to the AP, Associated Press, Black and Hispanic women get abortion at higher rates and then their peers. So the women of color also experience higher poverty rate and will have a harder time traveling out of the state for an abortion. To this condition, now only minority numbers are supporting and majority does not support. It's crucial if the law is passed. It's predicted that pregnancy is not going to be stopped. More number of abortions will occur. That would lead again to the health hazards of the women.